Maybe catching up on what you've mentioned, starting with a trainee program,
Mhm.
is there something out of this period of the trainee time
Yeah.
which still guides you even now when you're at the top of the company?
Why I wanted to do a trainee program was because I was quite aware that joining a large company, it is quite tough to get good perspective, and there's so many different kinds of jobs and expertises, right? And so it was a fantastic time with project work to just try to understand as much as possible how what's the business kind of like, right? And that time showed me that every time you change the role, right, you gain a new perspective, and it widens your perspective. And there's never this one truth. And so this guided me a lot over my career. Always when I made a decision, what could be my next job, that I always wanted to kind of collect different perspectives. And you said before, well, there was now more than 20 years of Korean Lufthansa, and I always tried to be once in headquarters, then out in the markets and sales, for example, in strategic positions, in operations positions, in projects. And so with all that kinds of different roles, this gives you more and more perspectives and a more holistic view of the business. And probably that's also what brought me then finally in that kind of position, collecting these different perspectives.
I can fully resonate. And what also now, Daniel, if you allow me one more question, you've mentioned you've been at BMW when they launched Mini. You've launched, if I'm not totally mistaken, the premium economy at Austria. Although actually I don't see in advertisements there is another airline making adverts with the premium economy. But were there big challenges when launching the premium economy? So what were the lessons out of this experience?
It was probably, it was probably the time when I again learned a lot about how the business runs, because implementing premium economy, the tough thing was not sourcing some new seats and putting them into an airplane. But the thing was, how do you launch a kind of new product line between two others? And when you compare that, and I use that example a lot, the challenge was to convince Lufthansa at that point of time, no matter of management, but also lots of colleagues, that there is room for something between economy and business class. And because so many people were afraid if we launched something, it could dilute business class. And business class at that point of time was always the most profitable product line, and airlines being very reliable and very, very dependent on that. And at the same time, not too many people believed, because economy is kind of a price-driven business, right, that there would be enough people paying more for premium economy. And so, like, discussing these beliefs and also changing these beliefs that there is room. I used the example of cars, where I said, look, pretending that there's no room for premium economy would be a bit like BMW says there's no space between the 3 Series and the 7 Series, right? And there is a lot in between.
There is indeed.
And so I actually used that BMW example when implementing premium economy, and in the end it was successful. And it taught me a lot, because it was about the strategic business case, but then also about how do you implement that in a commercially right way? How do you get the pricing right, the marketing right? How do you find the right target groups for this product in between? How do you attract enough people from economy? And how do you hold enough people back jumping down from business class? But in the end, it worked out.
And now grabbing on that and switching a bit gears, because leaving now the business case aside of the premium economy, this required a lot of convincing skills and many other skills to bring, to change the mindset. How would you define your leadership style?
Yeah, I get that question quite often, and I would say I try to adapt it to situations, and I try to adapt it also to people. I don't think there is this one leadership style which makes you successful through your entire career in every situation. Because, well, over more than 20 years, in aviation, there's always times where there's growth and where everything is booming, right? And then there we had, on the other hand, we had deep crises. Corona for sure was the deepest crisis and the most existential one. And in that times, you need a different kind of leadership style than while implementing something new like premium economy. And the other thing is when you lead people, I'm sure we will also talk about diversity, right? I always try to have a diverse team, and not just in terms of men, women, but also in types of character. And if you have someone who's really new in a leadership position, probably that person needs a different kind of leadership style than someone who's super experienced and probably like on the way to the next career level. And so I try to be sensitive on what's needed. And over time, I tried different kinds of leadership styles. It's probably more the question, what do I like most? It's probably a bit surprising. I like more the extremes. So there could be. It is kind of interesting to lead in a really deep crisis, because then things become very clear and fast. So that's something that does fit me. But the other thing is like developing something new, building something new. That's very much my passion, and so that's probably something where I try to also let others feel my passion and then try to get energy into the system. That's what I really do like. But yeah, you have to just be adaptive, I believe.
Yeah, fully agree.
Last, probably on your career development, you explained successful development 20 years in Lufthansa, kind of the headquarters. What motivated you to come to Austrian and basically subsidiary? It's here with us also in Raiffeisen, there's a difference if you are here in Vienna at the headquarters, if you're in a network bank in Central Eastern Europe, different perspective, different approaches, also different how a group is steered. This is Raiffeisen typical. Other areas that we've seen have different views. What is also the difference strategically, organizational, culture-wise, a little bit on Austrian? How do you see that?
Well, actually, I spent very little time in the formal headquarters. So I started with Lufthansa Airlines. So I was deep in the airline business. And then I also, for example, spent 2 years out in the field, in sales in Hamburg. And then also in 2015, I went to Zurich and already spent 5 years in Swiss. And so it is not the first time for me to be kind of out in a business unit. And what I always enjoyed is the jumping forth and back, because then we're back to perspectives, right? And I think it is super important in upper management roles to understand both, right? To understand what's needed from a headquarter perspective, but also to understand what's needed to be a successful business unit. And so I try to play that out. And do I have when I would have to choose what do I enjoy more? I would really say it's hard. It's when you're in the one role, I can very much identify now being here and being responsible for a business unit. But I also enjoyed my headquarter roles. I mean, it's a huge wheel you can drive, right? And that also has quite its fascination. And it depends. And I like to be switching. Yeah.
Raiffeisen Bank International. Make it happen.